What up, guys? Dan from Dan's Auto Body. I'm here at Ace Performance along with Dave Del Toro, the main technician here, which has done all the magic on this beautiful engine bay, and we're gonna rebuild this whole motor. So as you can see, it looks pretty, it looks great. They've done a fabulous job, but it's burning a little oil. It's not running as great as it should be because the motor we purchased from eBay. So it's time to actually make this baby top notch, make it 100%. And you guys are gonna watch everything in the process between getting everything out and what we're gonna do, what we're gonna use to get to that final stage.
So 5th generation Beams engine, it's received a custom wiring harness. It's got a Mark Panic wiring loom that we had spec'd out custom for this setup. It uses a Link Fury ECU. On top of that, it's got an ITB conversion with a 20 valve throttle system. We've incorporated a bleed air system using an idle valve, custom fuel pressure regulator, and all new fuel lines and a fuel cell in the back. So this car drives around like a factory car. You wouldn't even know it was ITB. Drives perfect on the street. The only issues this engine is currently going through is an oil consumption problem, and that's what we're going to tackle in the next few stages of this build. We'll also probably be able to pick up a little bit more horsepower since the 2 seasons ago we were a little bit down on power, so hopefully get it back up to about 200 wheel horsepower. So this car uses a lot of motorsport hardware. One of the key features is a digital dash display by Plex. We use that in a lot of our builds here. It's got a fantastic display. This car right now has a custom relay box and switch panel that we're going to be basically upgrading in the midst of this build. We're probably going to go to a PDM module to control all of the body electronics, turn signals, headlights, even things such as the horn and the fuel pump. So Dan will actually be removing 85% of the wiring in this car, stripping it all out, and we'll be putting even less wiring in the second round, but all of it will be completely incorporated and working much better than the relay panel that was in it before. So on top of the drivetrain and engine work we've done on this car, the chassis and suspension is also highly modified. We've swapped out pretty much every factory suspension component for a upgraded or modified version of it. The car uses all Techno Toy suspension components, adjustable lower control arms, front tension rods, as well as a coilover conversion and a Mazda RX-7 brake kit. All right, so the exhaust system on this car, it does use the factory manifold that came on the Beams engine. What we did was we modified it in-house to clean it up and also fit it to the Tomei system here that you can see. It's got a titanium setup from here back. All of this was the custom work that we needed to do to fit it to the original Beams engine manifold.
Might be asking, why the hell are we taking this engine apart, and why do we going on reverse as we are now? So one of the main reasons, the motor wasn't running as it should be, top notch. It was smoking a lot, which was showing us and indicating us that the internals were in need of some TLC. So that's why we decided, hey, let's get the motor out, let's get it machined, let's get it shipped, new aftermarket parts, pistons, and so forth. So we can get the engine setup completed. as far as the paint work, there's a lot of flaws that bothers me. You know, we bottomed out on both of the sides on the engine bay. So my idea now is actually to tub this section and have more clearance for the 9.5 wheels that we have front and back, work wheels. Also, the lip on the front is cracked. We bottomed out here on the slower section, so we got to redo this piece from scratch again. Along with the hood, it has to be redone on the inside, outside, and there's a few other things too. So she looks pretty, you know, I'm not taking it away from her beauty, but I'm picky. She represents the company. I want it to be top notch, and that's what we do in all of this, so we can bring it next season, something that's immaculate. By all means, I am not a mechanic.
This thing comes apart really well. It's kind of like a Lego. You know, you build it right, you build it with the right parts, and you know, both between Dan and I, we have more experience with this car than anybody else. So for us, dropping this thing out, it's a walk in the park. So we're removing the transmission right now. We're gonna basically strip down this engine and trans setup so we can get it further moving along to get it out to the machine shop. So the next step will be removing the transmission, removing the clutch assembly, and then moving on to all the accessories and components around the engine itself.
Where do we start? Where did this money pit start? That's the question. So just about 3 years ago, I was in the office with my wife. She worked with us at the body shop at the time, and we do some paperwork in the office. We had ordered lunch, and this guy pulls up with the Corolla, and she gets up. She's like, "Oh, that car's so cool." And mind you, she had just purchased a Mercedes like a week prior, right? So she goes, she falls in love with the car, and I called it a piece of shit. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a piece of shit. And from there on, she wanted to drive how to learn stick, and she's like, "Dan, please buy it, please buy it." We ended up convincing the guy to buy the car the same day. We bought the car for $2,500, and that was a regret. She probably practiced for about 2 days how to learn how to drive stick. That did not go too well. She gave up, and the next thing you know, I have a 1982 Corolla that I don't need because I already have an S2000 that's, you know, ready for the track. So at the time, I had an employee who worked for me, Peter, and he knew all about these cars. He knew how hot they were, and he's a bad influence. That's what he was, him and Dave. And you know, next thing you know, we're talking about, let's do a few things to it. Let's play around. Let's maybe do a little motor swap. And listen, like I said, I don't know much about mechanics. I know about body work and paint. And they convinced me to do a motor swap. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know, $2,000 you can buy a motor on eBay, you know, a Beams engine, perfect. And next thing you know, you're buying a management system. Next thing you know, you're buying a wiring harness. Next thing you know, you're doing exhaust. And next thing you know, you look like this. So I'm not gonna really disclose how much money I put into the car, but you can imagine they can pretty much buy a new one by now. But it's fun. You know, the biggest joy that I have from having the car done is that my son Dan, he loves the car. So anytime that we going out, if he sees the car, he makes a scene, man. He wants to go in that car. He wants to enjoy that car, and that's an excuse for me to go drive the car. Now I gotta take the whole family in it. So I'm having fun with the car. It's built from bottom up, everything, but it's built to be driven, to have some fun and really enjoy everything about the car, and that's what we're doing. Second question you might have is, what are you doing now since the car is fully done? Well, after 2 years of driving and putting the car to, you know, the capability of it, we don't baby it too much. He gets in, we get in, we go do what we want to do, put it in the garage. There's no too much wax on, wax off kind of thing, and that starts to build up. And the car has a lot of flaws now. The engine is smoking like crazy. We think that we can get a little bit more horsepower from rebuilding the engine and doing a few additional custom things to it. And I figured, hey, you know what? The first time we built the car, I never got to really get and do a video about it. So let's do something now where people can be informed what we're doing to the motor. So hopefully it helps you, you know, to when you build your motor, you know some of the things that we use and some of the things that you can implement, and what Ace Performance has done as far as the management and work to the engine. So you guys stay tuned because we have a lot of good content coming up.